Hi physics, it's Miss Satterley here. So I'm going to do a video to show you how to do calculations using scientific notation. So depending on what we're going to do, there's three different rules to follow. Our first one is the rule to follow for addition or subtraction. The thing you need to worry about is you need to make sure that your exponents are the same before you can add or subtract numbers. Our next rule is for multiplying. You're going to multiply the numbers or your coefficients together before you do anything with your scientific notation. And what you're going to do with your scientific notation after you multiply is you're going to add the exponents together. And then division of scientific notation, you're going to divide your numbers. And your exponents, you're going to subtract the exponents. So we're going to do some examples to show you how this works. So I'm going to start with an addition sample problem. Okay, addition. So again, the rule we need to follow for addition is we want to make sure that we have the same exponents. So the same exponents is what we're looking for. Anytime we have a problem, we always want to write out our given. So the problem we're going to do is what is the total of the measurements? 3.61 times 10 to the fourth millimeters, 5.88 times 10 to the third millimeters, and 8.1 times 10 to the second millimeters. So I need to write out my givens. So I have 3.61 times 10 to the fourth, 5.88 times 10 to the third, and 8.1 times 10 to the second. And I want to keep my units because you need to get into the habit. Any problem that we do, you must have your units. So our rule, same exponents. When we do this, we're going to look at the number that has the highest exponent. So that would be 4, which means the rest of our numbers, we need to make sure that they have an exponent of 4. So in order to get to 4, we're going to add 1. In order to get to 4 from here, we need to add 2. Now, for a general rule, I'm going to write over here, if you add to your number, you're going to move your decimal place this way, to the left. So I don't need to do anything for my original problem, so I'm going to rewrite that 3.61 times 10 to the fourth millimeters. That's not changing at all. Okay. Sorry, there we go. But this one is. So I'm adding 1, so I'm going to move my decimal place over 1, which means I have 5.88. I want to make sure my decimal places line up when I do this. Again, it's times 10 to the fourth. That wasn't written very nice, so it's okay. Over here, we're going to add 2, so I need to move it over 1, 2. There it is like that. Come down here, write my value. Okay. So I'm going to write this here in millimeters. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add my problem together. And after adding, you're actually going to get 4.275 times 10 to the fourth millimeters. And that would be my final answer for that one. If I was doing subtraction, you would do the same thing. You want to make sure that they all have the same units. The same exponents when you do this. Okay, let's go to a multiplication example. Okay, so multiplication. My rule for multiplication was I'm going to end up adding my exponents together. So again, our rule, we're going to add our exponents when we do multiplication. So we're going to multiply 3.03 times 10 to the 4th centimeters times 6.29 times 10 to the 2nd centimeters squared. Sorry, I didn't say squared before. Okay, so what we're going to do is follow our rules. You multiply the numbers. So those two numbers, I'm going to multiply them together. 1.90587. But we're not done. That's not our final answer because since we did sig figs, can't forget about those. Those are always going to come back into factor, especially right now. Okay, so then there's I multiplied that together, and now I need to add my exponents. So 4 plus 2 is 6. I made an oopsie. Sorry. Got ahead of myself here. Okay, so 10 to the 6. We're not done with this problem, though. We have to clean it up a bit. So sig figs. How many sig figs do we need? So let's look back at our original problem here. So we have 3 sig figs in each one, which means our answer has to have 3 sig figs. So 1, 2, 3. So that's where our answer is going to finish. Okay, since this is a 5, we're going to round this up. We have 19.1 times 10 to the 6. We're still not done though, because we do not want our scientific notation to have 2 whole numbers before the decimal place. So we have to make some adjustments here. Okay, we're going to turn this into 1.91 because we just want this, we want our decimal place there. All right, so I'm moving it over this way. Since I'm moving this way, I have to add to my exponent. So instead of 10 to the 6, I'm moving over 1. I need to add 1. So now I have 10 to the 7th centimeters squared. And that would be my proper final answer. So that's multiplication. At the end of this video, I will do one more example for each one. I'm just going to do the writing first. Okay, our last one is division. So our rules for division is we're going to subtract our exponents. Our n. So let's do an example. We're going to divide 3.803 times 10 to the 3rd grams divided by 5.3 times 10 to the 6th milliliters. So you can see, what are our units going to be? Well, if I'm dividing my units here, it's grams over milliliters. When I write my final answer, I'm going to put grams over milliliters. So this is the type of density. Okay. So we need to do what we need to do to our numbers. I'm changing the colors here on accident, but all right, here's our first one. We need to divide those two numbers together. If we divide these, we get 0.717547. I'm going to keep everything together. Okay. So if we divide, we're going to subtract the exponents. So this does not mean 6 minus 3. This means 3 minus 6. So you subtract this one, or you subtract the bottom from the top. So it's 3 minus 6, which you would end up with a negative 3. So down at the bottom, it's going to be times 10 to the negative third. And just to keep our units, grams per milliliter. Again, we're not done. We have to clean up our answer. Okay, so I need to move my decimal place. I want my decimal place to end up here. So if I'm going this way, you're actually going to subtract from your exponents. So 7 point and sig figs. Almost forgot. Can't do that. So my sig figs here, I need 2 sig figs because of 5, 3. So I'm going to keep 7, 1. This is a 7, which means I'm going to round up. We're going to have 7.2. Okay. Times 10 over here. We're subtracting. I moved it 1, so I'm going to subtract 1. If you subtract the negative, we could rewrite this just to see this. You can change it into an addition problem. You make that addition, but you make that a negative. So you're actually just adding these two numbers together. So negative 3 plus negative 1, you're going to end up with negative 4. And just to keep with consistency here, we're going to have our units, grams per milliliters, which again is a density. So that would be our final answer for this problem. So let's do a sample for each one more time before I might do 2 samples. Okay, let's start with addition or subtraction, whatever we might do. Okay. So again, addition with addition or subtraction. I'll write that, addition or subtraction. You need to have the same exponents, so that's the rule that we're going to follow. Again, you have to have same exponents. So our sample here, we have 4.74 times 10 to the 4th kilometers plus 7.71 times 10 to the 3rd kilometers and 1.05 times 10 to the 3rd kilometers. Okay. So again, the first step we did is we have to look and see what number has the highest exponent, and that would be 4. So we're going to add to each of our exponents here. I'm going to add 1 and add 1. So earlier, if I'm going to add, your decimal always goes that way to the left. So both of these have a 3, so we're going to add 1 to each one. So move this over 1, move this over 1. We're going to rewrite this, 4.74 plus 771 plus 105. And again, don't forget about these. Always keep your exponents. Just trying to make sure that lines up nicely. Adding these together. And always keep your units as well. Okay, so I'm going to have 10 to the 4th kilometers. So if I add these together, 6 Okay, 5.616 times 10 to the 4th. We have to look at sig figs. So when you're doing sig figs, you have to look at your numbers here. Okay, and it's going to be the least number of decimal places. So this top number here has only 2. So this is where you're going to round your number off to. Is that place right there? Okay. So my final answer is going to be, this is a 1, so we're not going to round up. I'm sorry. I'm silly. I did that wrong. So this is a 6. So I'm going to round this up to 5.62 times 10 to the 4th kilometers. So that's another practice problem for addition. Subtraction would be the same thing. You would just subtract the numbers from each other. All right. So let's do one more multiplication practice problem and one more division practice problem, and then wrap this up. Okay, for multiplication, you're going to end up with adding your exponents together. I'm going to write add n because n stands for exponents. Okay, so let's do problem here. We're going to have 7.20 times 10 to the 3rd centimeters times 8.08 times 10 to the 3rd centimeters. So I'm going to bring down my units. I'm going to add my exponents, which means I'll have 10 to the 6th. Okay. And I'm going to multiply those numbers together. Gotta get my calculator out. So 7.20 times 'm going to add my my coefficients together. 7.20 times 8.08. So we're going to end up with 58.167. We're not done. We still have to do some cleanup on this. So the first thing I need to do is my decimal place is not in the right place. So I need to move this way. Again, if we move this way, we're going to add to our exponents. So I'm going to add 1. So that would be 5.8176 times 10 to the 7th centimeters. But I'm not done because the last thing I need to look at is sig figs. So I have 3 sig figs in this one, and I have 3 sig figs in this one, which means my answer also has to have 3 sig figs. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. I need to look at this number here. It's a 7, so I'm going to round up. So my final answer is going to be 5.82 times 10 to the 7th centimeters. Made an oopsie because if you multiply your exponent or your units together, you end up with a squared. So I need to make sure my units are correct when I do this. So that is a sample of a multiplication problem. And very last, we're going to go ahead and do one more division problem, and that'll be the end of this video. Again, when you do division, you're going to actually subtract your exponents or subtract your n. So the sample problem we're going to do for one more of these is going to be 2.290 times 10 to the 7th centimeters divided by 4.33 times 10 to the 3rd seconds. So again, my units, let's go ahead and do those correctly first. If I'm dividing my units, it'd be centimeters over squared. If this was, say, meters squared divided by meters, this will cancel and you'll end up with meters squared. All right. Okay, so with division, we're going to subtract our exponents. So 7 minus 3 is going to be 4. It's not a very good minus sign. It's be 10 to the 4th centimeters over seconds. So now we need to look at this right here. Okay, we're going to divide those together. So again, get my calculator out. 2.290 divided by 4.33, 0.52886. I'm not going to write the rest because there's some more, but this will do. Okay, so again, we have to doctor it up here because it's not our final answer. One, our decimal place is not where it needs to be. Our decimal needs to be over here. So again, if we're moving this way, we're going to subtract. I'm going to subtract 1 from my exponent. I'm up with 5.2. I'm going to do this in the same step. I want to make sure my sig figs are right. Let's look at our sig figs up here. So our first one up here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sig figs, and this will have 3. When you divide, you're going to keep the sig figs with the least number. Our least number of sig figs would be 3. So my final answer needs to have 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, look at this one. So that is an 8, which means I'm going to round my other 8 up. So my final answer will be 5, 2, which I already have, 9 times 10 to the 3rd centimeters over seconds. And that is another sample problem on how to do division. Okay, so today there is an assignment posted that has 15 practice problems. There's 5 for each category, 5 addition, subtraction, 5 multiplication, and 5 division. You need to work on that today. It will be due tomorrow, just like all the other assignments. Okay. If you have any questions, please let me know. And have a wonderful day. Bye.